Hi, I'm Gila, sacred erotic love mentor, poet, and author, and this is a collaboration Ascension series. So glad you're here. And I have a special guest today, Ilisa Millermoon. I actually met her through a previous person I interviewed, Tirsa, and she is a soul journey guide, an artist, and so many other things. And I recently just shared a book about children's energy that it was really piqued my interest. So, Ilisa, why don't you just give us a brief bio about yourself?
Well, I am originally from Pennsylvania, grew up in a very conservative Mennonite background and community. Um, and I, I took a lot of time to really gather the gifts from my experiences growing up, even though they were perceived as not necessarily crazy positive. and that has been, between my intuitive energy art, that has been a very healing modality for myself. And my goal is to transform your living space, your spirit, and that is behind every one of my offers, including this book. That, and I always say noni and I created it, because one that nudged me to dive in and guided me throughout the whole process.
Ah, that's so beautiful. I love that because I think the living space is really important. So maybe you can give us a little bit more of a description about what that means to you.
You'll have to repeat it because the video stopped.
Okay, I'll repeat that. So I love the fact that you talked about the living space. So
Mhm.
if you can just give us some, go a little bit deeper about what that means to you.
Um, Intuitive energy art is what I do is I infuse it with Reiki and Arcturian light healing, as well as either goddess medicine or dragon medicine. And often there's an intention behind each painting, especially if it's for a commission piece for a client. I recently just did a piece to help ignite their new beginning, because they just moved and they were starting over. And so um, intuitive energy art is having no preconceived notion of what you're going to create beforehand. And I tune into my celestial team, which is my angels and spirit guides and dragon guides, and we create together, and it's so much fun.
I like that. I'm a poet, and a lot of my poetry are divine downloads. Like I just, it just kind of comes through me. And, um, sometimes I like to schedule my writing, but I haven't lately. But yeah, it's very inspirational, and I feel like it's also very, very intuitive. And it doesn't
Yes.
just pertain to my writing. Like I can connect, I can connect to you, or I connect to somebody. And, the more that my heart connects to someone, I just feel them. Do you feel that as well?
Yes, very much so. And that's why I was so tickled to do this interview with you.
Yeah, it's very special, because I feel like we're all intuitive, but the more that we're aware of it, the more that we really get in tune with that. And it's funny that you say that, because I recently, about 2 months ago, before the whole, this pandemic started, I met someone in my community, and we were both intuitive, and we just met in like a coffee shop with a mutual friend, and we were totally ignited by that, just by the presence of each other. It wasn't like what we were saying, it was just that presence.
Yes.
So yeah, I
Well,
appreciate
and
you.
it's so much fun. I find it so delightful. It scared me at first, but to be able to see someone with your heart and your intuitive energy. So energy, often I will remember somebody's energy, but not their name. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know you from. So it is
And I,
wonderful.
I want to talk about that because I've been thinking about this a lot. Today is actually Yom Zikaron, meaning remember, like Memorial Day in Israel. I'm in Israel, and I was thinking about it today because I was thinking, I'm remembering the fallen soldiers, because many people's children have fought in a variety of different situations here in this country. And I thought about, but the word of remembrance, like in the US, it's Memorial Day. You know, it's again, it's memory is in that word. And so why I bring it up when you mention that is because when you say you remember the energy and not the person, because I feel our whole life is an actual remembrance
Mm.
of who we are, and we are bringing our soul family to us and we're
Yes.
remembering them, right? You know, it's not like
Yeah.
we're meeting them for the first time. We're just remembering who they are when we remember ourselves.
Yes. And that's delicious. I love that. And that's actually what happened with this children's book, A Spirit Guide Named Noni. I didn't realize that Noni was my first spirit guide. I met her when I was 7 years old. I played outside all the time. It was safer for me to be outside than in my home. And I didn't realize until about 5 or 6 years ago that she was my first spirit guide, and she taught me how to ground my energy in Mama Earth's heart space and how to talk to all of Mama Earth's divine creatures. And she's just a delight, and I'm very connected to her even to this day when I'm out in nature.
That's beautiful. And you know
And that
what?
is part of that remembering.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I'm glad
Because
you.
that was never spoken of. That would have never been talked about growing up. I never mentioned Noni.
Mm-hmm,
It would have been seen as a negative, so I just never even talked about her.
mm-hmm.
So now that I have reclaimed my voice, I can talk about her, and it's delightful.
That's beautiful. And I think that many of us have had childhoods like that where we, you know, we had this kind of inner world that nobody knew about, that only we did because we were afraid to share that. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I know probably many of the people that are watching are going to relate to this. And I wanted to bring up something else that came up to me. Ah, yes, grounding your energy. I
Yes.
teach my children about that. That was what really struck me about your book, because you know, it's not just about us. We talk so much about us, you know, like we need to ground our energy, we need to go out in nature, but and we need to do it alone too, but we also need to teach our children how to do it.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Noni was a saving grace for me because my childhood was so there was so much abuse involved, and so to be able to be outside and commune with Mama Earth and Noni is about 2 feet tall. Her hair is vines. Her skin shimmers in the sunlight, and she's just um, she was my saving grace as a child, and I'm so grateful that we connected. And I want children to joyfully connect with their spirit guides and commune with Mama Earth. So you're right, we absolutely need to share that with our children.
Yes, and I appreciate that, you know, because I think that in nature, all of us feel really free. You know, there's something about nature because there are no rules. You know, there's no way to be, you know, unless a parent or somebody's telling you how to be. But usually, like when you know, I know when my kids were smaller, were younger, it was like, let's go outside because, you know, they were just getting too rambunctious, like in the house, you know, and because they could be free, they can run, they can climb trees, you know, they could play with the dog, and they could, you know, just be. um,
Yes.
and so I think that that's really special about nature, and be wild, you know,
Yes.
not have to be conformed into anything.
And yes, because so much of the first half of our life is being told what we're supposed to be. And then the second half is very much unlearning that. And so to be able to, to not have your children learn that to begin with is fantastic. And nature is so healing. I
Yes.
just, I crave it.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. And I think that actually, because we're still in the, you know, in, I don't know about in the throes, but we're still in this quarantine, shut down kind of situation all over the world, mostly, not all, everyone, but mostly.
Mm,
I think we are learning, at least I am with my kids, like what's not working in school, like what's
yeah.
not working in these
Yes.
kinds of structures that
Yes.
all of us are having, not just the children, but
Yep. Yep.
ourselves as well.
And yeah, I feel like there's a huge, so there's several facets to it. One is that now people have to actually be with themselves and see themselves, and it's, I think for some it's terrifying. For myself, I didn't have a huge transition because um, Evidently I'm a hermit. No, I'm like, I go do grocery
That's
shopping.
great. Well, I already practiced social distancing,
I'm
so
like,
it's
not
not a big
much
deal for
happened.
me.
I'm like, nothing's gonna change, but okay. But and I've always, like, I've been doing Sparkle Quest walks with my dog for the past 5 years. And all that is when you are out and about, look for things along your path that make your soul sing. And you can do that in your home too. So I think I'm like, oh, I'm so happy other people are discovering that as well. But that's always been a part of my lifestyle, because I had spent so much time, the first part of my life, angry and hurt, and had to do some major self-work and healing. And so I am determined for the the next half of my life to just discover joy and wonderment on a daily basis, because life is too short. And I want to be very intentional about that. It's so important to me.
That's beautiful, and I agree. I think that so much of our time, I was the same, very, kind of disillusioned, and not being able to get what I wanted, and but also being very confused as a child, because I was kind of moved away from my parental structures, but I also didn't really know what what I was really looking for a long time. But I knew the things that were coming to me weren't it either. It was
Yes.
usually like, a matter of just saying, okay, that's not it, and still trying to find what was it. But um, I agree that joy is the foremost thing for me as well. Sometimes I fall into that spiral of like, oh, this isn't working. But because I've been doing the work, I can snap out of it, or at least see
Yes.
the silver lining a lot quicker than when I used to.
And that is a game changer. That is a huge game changer. And just it's more about, okay, life isn't just happening to you. Life happens for all of us, and it's how we respond and react, and that makes all the difference. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was just saying that, yesterday I did a live in my group, and in my Facebook group, and I was just saying that, so much of our time is spent about this person said this and that person said that, and all the things that are going on, or, this happened to me, oh, woe is me, whatever the situation, like plug it in. But when you realize that you really are the center,
Yeah. What's the
everything
common
revolves
denominator?
around what?
What's the common denominator?
Yes,
I
yes,
always ask myself, what's the common denominator with
right.
this scenario?
Right.
It's
What
me.
is the lesson that, getting to the point of it,
Yep.
what's the lesson that we're supposed to learn from this challenge?
Exactly.
It's not a struggle, it's a challenge.
And I even go further to say, I stop saying a challenge or a struggle, and I say I'm experiencing X, Y, or Z. And then that way I am not giving it ownership over me. It's an
Right.
experience. I can honor and acknowledge it and release it.
Yes. Yes. But what I try to do is just when things don't feel good, but I
Yes.
still have to experience it, I have to ask
Yeah.
myself, what's a lesson? Because I don't want to,
Absolutely.
right? And if you until you learn the lesson, this is what I
Yeah, it
found.
keeps coming
It
back.
keeps coming back. Exactly. Like, why does this keep happening to me? Okay, let me do it again. No,
Yes.
let's
And
do something different,
yeah, and I will say that to the universe. Okay, I'm ready to learn something different. Just
Right.
let's move forward.
Exactly. And that's great because you're talking straight to your guides, to your angels, to the universe. And,
Yep.
I think we're both encouraging anyone who's watching here to always communicate. There are light beings around you all the time. We are
We,
light beings.
yes, we all have a celestial team.
Right. And we also are, we are part of that light. And it's just allowing that light to open, and not hiding it. Because I think that's why we were in such distress for as many years as we were, because we were hiding.
Yes. Yep. Not fully standing in our power. Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
and we don't need to feel bad, like we just didn't know how.
Yep.
We accepted that situation, because personally I feel I accepted it because that was part of my growth. I needed to do that.
Absolutely. And that's what I find so intriguing. I grew up in a family where there's no nurturing, no compassion, very little empathy. But what's ironic about that is those are the gifts I gathered. So from that lack, I was able to discover compassion, unconditional love, empathy for myself and humanity. You know, so that yeah, those are gifts. I like to envision that I'm gathering them in a basket and as and cherish them.
Yes, yes, you're right. I think that's so, a lot of the times when we're coming from, situations that didn't feel good, it was easy to blame until we come to a space where we're like, no, it was actually a gift. It's now a
Absolutely.
power.
Absolutely. And I can, I know that at least my mother came from a very abusive family as well. So I know that both of them did the best they could. And I forgave and loved them a long time ago. But, and that was my way of being able to move forward.
Right. And I think that's just an important point. I've been actually thinking about this. I was thinking about it yesterday, that a lot of, at least, the clients that I work with and myself included, and it's also previous lives, but just to talk about this lifetime, a lot of our struggle comes from generational oppression.
Yep.
It's like your mother, my father, it's our history is in our body.
Yep.
And we are asked to experience it because that was our path, but we have the choice to decide if we're going to continue to experience it or not.
Exactly. Yes, I've done a lot of ancestral healing to release not just myself from it, but all those who came before me and those who will come after me. So I think that's very important. Ancestral healing is so important because you're right, it is in your DNA. And so at some point you have to heal it and release it.
Right, right. And your and my philosophy is that when you're under guidance, hopefully with a mentor, you will intuitively know what healing you need, and
Yes.
and it will come at the right time.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what Noni was absolutely for me. She was a healing being as I was a child, and then for her to come into my life again as an adult when I remember having that. I was out in the woods taking a walk, and she showed up again, and I just remember being mesmerized, like, oh my gosh, she's been with me all this time. So it's been a delightful adventure to reconnect with her and to enjoy her gifts and to share with children that we all have spirit guides, and they're all here for at different times in our lives to help us with different things. And it's just an amazing adventure.
That is beautiful. Do you happen to have your book available?
I do. I have the there's
Wow,
a spirit guide named Noni,
gorgeous. So cool. Did
and
you did you
I
draw
have the
that?
heart. Pardon me.
Did you draw that cover?
Yeah, the art, all the artwork is mine,
Oh my God.
and the book itself. There's one.
Oh
There she
wow,
is.
you are so talented. That's really beautiful.
And so because I really wanted the book to be printed in the U.S., that was important, and that's been important to me from day one, and before any of this shenanigans. So the hardcover book is available on my website, and then you can get the Kindle edition on Amazon. But here she is again.
Ah,
And
so
that's her
beautiful.
grounding her energy in Mama Earth's heart space.
Ah, yeah, I see that. That's really wonderful. Oh my God, it's so
So
beautiful.
each of the page, it's all hand painted. I'm very old school. I love textiles. I love paper. And so each of the images are an individual painting.
Cool. So, and it's your artwork in the background that we see there?
Yes, yeah. That's one of my Intuit. I'm about to list that in my Etsy shop. I have my website, and then I have an Etsy shop as well.
Okay, and all that will be listed in the details. And tell us about the soul journey that you mentioned. Your soul journey guide. Is that what you said?
Yes, I work with women one-on-one to help them create the life that they envision for themselves. And a lot of times that like what you talked about earlier, that involves remembering, healing, as well as getting some clarity as, what do you want? When someone says, I want to be happy, well, what does that look like? I mean, what is happy for you? It's different for each of us. And that's what I love. That's what that brings me so much joy, is knowing that we're not all exactly the same. Yes, we're human, and that's what we have in common, but each of us is a unique flavor, and our life, what would make my soul sing may be completely different than you. And so that's what I love. And being intuitive, I'm able to really help with clarifying what it is that looks like.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, if anyone's resonating with this, resonating with Elisa's art, please, I'll be putting all the links below. Definitely contact her.
Okay.
Do you have anything that you're working on currently where people can sign up to?
I'm sorry.
Is there
Sorry, what?
Is there some place where they can sign up? Do you have a group or?
I have a Facebook group for women, but you can go to my website, just Millermoon.com. There's an email list, Morsels of Motivation, which is just sharing bits of joy and delight, and of course offers as well for my tribe. But you can head to my website, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'll be posting all of that here. And I just really, your art really spoke volumes to me. So I am so glad you shared
Thank you.
pages of that book. It's so, so beautiful. Art, I don't know if you know this about me, but creativity really moves me. That's how I started writing my own poetry. I was always a writer, but I wasn't always a poet. That just came about a few years ago. And what I found out, which you might resonate with, is that when we can open up to our creative power, it just fuels our soul.
Yes.
It moves us to places that we never knew even existed.
It's essential to, I think, creativity and in whatever medium you choose. I mean, it's different for all of us. God forbid I try to knit, because that's abstract art for me. So, but everybody has something. That's part of being human, as we are creative beings. That's how we survived this long. So, it's something that needs to be nurtured. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. And, I think that this particular situation that we're all in at the moment has called us to be creative, because we haven't been able to go to our routines that we were so used to. And I truly believe that that's a blessing. Because,
absolutely,
those routines probably weren't working for us. Maybe some of them were, but most of them probably weren't. So we are asked to move forward from that.
Well, and what I find interesting about that is it's been delightful seeing who was not told as a child, if you're bored, you're boring. Go entertain yourself, because I've been entertaining myself for years. And so I'm looking around and I'm giggling. I'm like, okay, you need to practice that. So that's been fun. I'm like, okay, yeah, you've never been told that.
Yeah, I agree. This is a completely different conversation. We could go on a bit longer for this, but because I totally agree. I think that we are so inundated with stuff to do that we don't have enough time to just be,
Yes, and be still.
Right.
And I will tell you, we don't have regular TV. We got Netflix. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen a commercial in years, which I'm so grateful for, because when we travel, all of a sudden I feel like I have a prostate issue. I probably need a new car, and I am absolutely obese. So I'm going, okay, I'm so glad we don't have commercials. I don't watch a lot of TV. I can still hear my grandmother saying to me, what you put into your brain is what you get out. And it's not just your brain, it's your body, mind, spirit. So I'm very mindful, as I don't watch the news, haven't watched it in 10 years. I don't want to be suicidal or clinically depressed. And there's too many wonderful things, people, situations around me to get caught up in that energy. So I'm very mindful too, and in social media, what am I posting? What am I giving energy to? You won't see politics, Hollywood, sports on my feed, because that just doesn't, okay. But if you want to talk about, creating your genuine, delightful life, I'm your gal.
Yes, totally. I completely resonate with that. I don't either. I refuse to have television in my house. I don't buy any newspapers.
Yep.
Even I do work outside of the house, and they're like, "Oh, did you hear the news?" I'm like, "No, I don't watch the news. Don't tell me the news. I
Yep.
don't want to hear it." Obviously, if it's going to affect my, my next minute of my life, I guess I need to know, but I'll
Right.
figure out another way. But I think it's really important because that's also about protecting your energy.
Yes.
And it's about feeling complete within yourself. I think we're always looking, we were, some of us, and some people might still be looking outside to get full, like you have to be busy. But you know what? You don't.
And busy is just another way to distract yourself from doing your own work. And I know because I've done it.
Yeah.
So, and that was about 10 years ago. I remember having an epiphany thinking, why am I going to all these networking meetings, which were not effective for me? And why am I being supposed to do? And I wasn't ready until I realized, okay, and it was tiring. There was nothing exciting about it. So, about 10 years ago, I remember that shift. I thought, this is crazy town. I'm not interested in busy for the sake of busy. So
right.
That's huge. And that'll be an interesting shift for a lot of people. I think that's what's been so terrifying, is there's so many people that are seeing themselves for the first time in a long time.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think that, it is scary. But the reality is that personally, I feel that every soul on this planet has a mission that only they can do. And the sooner you find that out, the better, because then, your life is going to just become more and more peaceful, and you are going to really live your desires.
Yes. Find your pain, find your purpose. Every time. Yeah.
I'm so glad that we discussed that, because I think that the more that I actually believe in spending, more time alone to really kind of attune yourself to you. People look for love and money and all the things, but until we give it to ourselves, everything that we're searching for, we're not going to find it.
And, I love that you made that point, because that's part of my ideal client. I don't want somebody who wants to be spoon-fed. That's just not my ideal client. I want somebody that wants to create their genuine, delightful life, and what that looks like for them. And you're so right. You hear all the time, everything you need to know is within you. And it is. You know what's best for you. That's the bottom line. So that's been a huge learning curve in just attracting my ideal clients, is that, no, I don't want somebody that wants to be spoon-fed. If that's what they want, they need to go to somebody else. I'm not your goddess for that.
Right. And I think that's important also, because I try to encourage my children to be independent. Of course they'll ask my opinion because I'm their mom, but I also ask them, what do you think? How do you think if we're cooking more in the house and we're all participate together? And sometimes, we try new things and it doesn't work. So I say, what do you think we should do? I don't know, I have all the answers, and I think it's a very powerful play. I used to be a teacher, and I would say the same thing. Sometimes they'd ask me these questions like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, let's look it up together.
There you go.
I'm still like that.
That's brilliant. And what a wonderful way to empower.
Yes, and because also it's so, we used to have when I was a kid, it was encyclopedias, going to the library and things like that. But now it's like at our fingertips, and it's great because it's still the same methodology. It's just a different medium.
Yes. Yeah. But, empowering children to discover for themselves is so much fun. And what a wonderful gift and tool to offer.
Yes. Yes, I agree, and I think that once we can see our life, like you said, about living in joy and seeking joy in every experience, then it becomes more of a pleasure to live life. You
Yes.
know, to wake up each day like, what am I going to find out today? You know, and I know sometimes it doesn't feel that way.
Well, one of my favorite things to do, and I started doing this years ago, is every morning before my feet even hit the ground, I do my protection prayer. I pick the color of my protection bubble for the day because I love color. It changes all the time. And then I kindly ask the universe, I would love a magical surprise today. And every day that I do that, I get a magical surprise, and it is so much fun. But just being intentional about that has shifted everything.
That is
And
beautiful.
if I can spread that around, great. If I can make
Yeah,
that contagious.
definitely. And I'm supporting you on that, you know, just because we were talking and I mentioned this in our group program this week was that um, every morning I get up really early and I see the sunrise.
Mm,
And so every sunrise is different, and you can appreciate this because there's just different colors. You know, it's like
yes.
different pastels. You know, maybe and as the seasons change, the position of the sun changes.
Yes.
I didn't even realize these things because I'd never used to wake up to see the sun every day. Like so I'm learning a lot, and it's very magical. Like those moments right before there's light in the sky.
Yes. It's delicious. I always feel like all those little bits of wonderment around us, like a buffet for all of your senses. And I love soaking it all in. What you hear, what you smell, what you see, what you feel. It's delicious.
It is. It is. Thank you so much for just exciting our senses in this interview. I think it's especially your beautiful paintings. It's definitely more than just the eyes. It was really like we could feel, like you said, you liked it. You're tactile, and I could feel that by just looking at it. So you definitely bring that across really, really well. So thank you so much for
Oh, thank you. I
sharing.
appreciate you greatly.
Of course. So if any of you are resonating with Ilisa, please, please check out her links. They will all be in the details in YouTube. And if you are resonating with me, I have quite a few different programs right now, and I would love for you to really live your soul's purpose and speak your truth. I know it's challenging times to do this, but this is the time. It's in the
This is the
discomfort
time.
that is the growth,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and we know, because as we are guides now, we were once mentored, and it's so important, I believe, to have a mentor, and whoever is resonating with you in this call or my previous ones, please, please connect with them.
Yep. Absolutely.
Would you like to say any closing words before we close?
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing your time with me, and I love the your energy that you share freely. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Grateful.
so much, Elisa. Yes, I'm very, very grateful to you as well of sharing your intuitive gifts with us today.